most of us waste so much time and energy and money trying to change things, feeling bad,
Mhm.
devaluing the things that make us special, and
Uh-huh.
feeling bad about those things, hitting our heads against walls that never move. And it is imperative to learn how to work with your strengths, to amplify and magnify the strengths that come with each temperament, and then be able to work with and around the challenges that are never going to go anywhere.
A large part about loving your spouse well is to keep pushing yourself to really know and understand your spouse at a deeper, more fundamental level. I learned about personality typing when I was a youth, and I thought it was such a cool and useful tool to help me better understand my parents, my siblings, and my friends. And today, we're talking about something kind of related to personality typing, which, according to my guest, Dr. Denim Slade, is called temperament. And according to him, temperament doesn't change, while personality can change over a lifetime. In
Welcome
this
to the
episode,
Get Your
you'll
Marriage
also
On
hear
podcast.
about what
I'm your host,
temperament
Dan
is and
Purcell,
why
a
it's more
sex and intimacy
fundamental
coach
than
for
just
married
personality
couples.
and why
My
understanding
mission
matters.
is to help you
What the four
build and
types of
maintain a
temperaments are,
sexually
and
vibrant
specifically
and
find out what
intimate
type
marriage.
you are,
Join me each
and
week
importantly,
as we
how to
explore
use your
principles and
understanding
practical
of
tools
you
based
and
on
your
Christian
spouse's
values
temperament
to create
to
the passionate,
enhance your
joyful,
intimate
and
and
thriving
sexual
marriage
relationship.
you're designed to have.
By the end of this episode, you and your spouse will have a deeper understanding and know-how about how to love each other well at a more deeper level and improve your sexual and intimate experiences as well. And now for Dr. Denim Slade and our discussion on temperament and intimacy. Dr. Slade, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm
Great.
so excited to have you here today.
I'm super excited to be here.
I thought it'd be fun if we started off with two truths and a lie.
Okay.
Dr. Slade edition.
Sounds good.
So
Might
if
be
you
a little
can think
boring.
of three statements, and two of them are going to be true, one of them is going to be false, and we'll see. So if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to think, because of course you don't know Dr. Slade yet, but can you guess which one is his lie? Let's go.
All right, here we go. I met my wife when I was 13,
Okay.
and we've been married for 31 years. That's
All
all
right.
one. Truth
Okay,
or
that's the
lie?
first truth. Okay. All right.
My full name is Denim Levi Slade,
Like jeans?
like the jeans. Yep.
That's unusual. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I can hold my breath for 3 minutes underwater.
That's incredible.
Two of those are true, and one of them's not.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to guess. All right, listeners, what do you think? I'm going to guess it's the 3 minutes underwater is the lie.
You're correct. That is
Because your record's 2 minutes, 59 seconds, not
right.
3 minutes, right?
Yeah. My record was like a minute and 10 seconds or something.
But your son-in-law, he can do 3 minutes, I think you
My
told me.
son-in-law can do 3 minutes. Yeah, he's a really good swimmer. He can hold his breath well. So yeah, but
That's
those other two
incredible.
things are true. Yeah, my full name is Denim Levi Slade, which people have a hard time believing. And I always wonder if my parents were hippies,
Uh-huh.
why they gave me that name. And then yeah, I met my wife Ellen when I was 13 in eighth grade. My family moved from a small town in Utah to Bountiful, Utah, and she was one of the first people that I met. And after courting and convincing her that I was worth her time, we eventually got married almost 10 years later, and now we've been married for almost 31 years. 31 years this month.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
This week. Great. Happy anniversary.
yeah, this month.
This month. That's great. So cool. So cool.
Yeah,
It would be a funnier story, though, if your wife's name was Jean. Just
it would
saying.
be. Sure.
All right. Okay. So you've developed this amazing new concept called core theory. And I know a little bit about it, but help me understand. Tell me a little bit about core theory and why is it so relevant to our discussion today?
Super, super important to understand. Your listeners and you are probably fairly familiar with some of the personality profiling systems out there.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Like Big
personality,
Five,
yeah, the
Myers-Briggs.
yeah, the Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, the
Uh-huh.
DISC, Fitness. There are lots of different models out there. Personality has been studied for decades and actually for centuries. The earliest personality profiling systems go back hundreds of years. We've always been kind of fascinated with trying to understand what makes us tick. But when I was in graduate school 100 years ago, I I came across something that I kind of skipped over at that time, which is temperament. And
Hmm.
temperament is a little bit different than personality. The research has also shown for decades that infants actually come into life high or low on 9 temperament variables, and temperament doesn't change across the lifespan. You
Hmm.
can change your behavior, you can change the way you interpret things, and you can change your attachment style, but you cannot change your temperament. And when you're in the business of helping people change, like you are, like I
Hmm.
am, understanding what you can and can't change is super important. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of skipped over it when I was in grad school, because I was learning how to be a therapist and learning how to help people change. And so something that wasn't changeable didn't grab my interest too much at that time. But after working with people for decades, I was a therapist for over 20 years, and I've also always been fascinated with personality, and I had never come across a model that was super consistent with what I saw day in and day out in my office. Or the models that are out there, like the Enneagram, were so complicated that they weren't very user friendly for about half of the population. And
Uh-huh.
so I have a PhD. I know how to do research. And so about 13 years ago now, I decided to start collecting data of my own. And I spent about 3 years collecting data, qualitative data, and about a year and a half analyzing it, and then writing it up. Took me a long time because of my temperament. Took me a long time to get it written up. But yeah, the result is the core temperament model. Put it over there,
Okay.
um,
Great.
which is super imperative to understand, because attachment theory, which you're probably familiar with, Dan, and your listeners are probably at least peripherally familiar with, although most people don't really understand attachment well either. But attachment theory plus your temperament create your emotional blueprint.
Okay.
And and those are two things that are behind the curtain, kind of under the surface, literally filtering every information that comes at us. And subconsciously, unless we're consciously aware of it, subconsciously dictating how we monitor and manage relationships, why we do the things we do, why we don't do the things that we don't do. And so understanding temperament is super, super important if you want to be healthy in your life and relationships.
Mm. What are some of the fascinating findings or surprise findings you found in your research about temperament?
Well, one of the coolest things, and the reason why it's called core, is that, like other personality profiling systems out there, four very clear types, four
Uh-huh.
very
Or
clear
styles? Uh-huh.
yeah, profiles emerged from my research. Very predictable, very consistent in the research. And most people come into life with a very dominant primary core temperament.
Hmm.
Um, and then most all of us also have a pretty dominant secondary type, which tends to be, one of the things that my research showed is that the secondary type a lot of times can be influenced by our environment, by our attachment style and our interactions with our caregivers as our brains get wired.
Mhm.
uh, about 80% of our brains get wired by age 3,
Mhm.
and about 90% of our brains get wired by age 5. And literally, how our brains get wired is a co-creative process that occurs between the infant and her or his caregivers. And so you get this dynamic interplay between nature, your temperament, and nurture, your environmental factors, that then coalesce or combine to form your personality.
Gotcha. Wow. So what are the different kinds of temperaments?
I'm glad you asked. So the uh, the C in core stands for
Oh, I
comfort.
guess that's clear. That's important to say, right? When you say came with core theory, we're talking about core like who we are, yeah, in the
Yes,
kernel, and that's the heart.
yes,
But you're
yes,
saying core as in C-O-R-E. Each
yes,
letter
right.
stands for one of the
Yeah,
four. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Wait.
CORE is an acronym, and
Okay.
so each of the letters stands for one of the temperament profiles, and each temperament is motivated unalterably and unchangeably by very different motivations. C
Hmm.
stands for comfort and connection, and C's, the primary emotional process that takes place with C's is trying to get and stay emotionally settled.
Mhm.
C's want to be settled emotionally, And when they're unsettled emotionally, it's like they're living in a sandstorm. It's really discombobulating for the C brain when they feel emotionally unsettled. And that is what drives these primary motivators of comfort and connection. C's want comfortable clothes, comfortable furniture, comfortable emotions. They want themselves and everybody around them to be comfortable. You have some C's in your family. Um,
Mhm.
and they're driven. C's are driven by wanting to be comfortable emotionally and wanting to connect deeply. And
Mm.
see that through all of the almost everything that shows up with the C. C's are sensitive. They are in tune with the emotional environment um, more powerfully than any other type. It's some people can hear things that other people can't hear.
Right, or they pick up on, like, "Did you hear that bird sing?" Like,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly, uh-huh.
Or other
"We're at a
people can
park,
smell
there's a
things.
lot of noise going on, and you heard a bird
Yes.
singing?"
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or other people can smell things that other people can't smell.
Okay, uh-huh.
Um, C's can feel things. They're in tune with the emotional energy around them much more acutely than any other temperament type.
Hmm.
Um, they're really good at making connections among things. The C brain takes time to make connections. Something way over here can be connected to something way over here via 15 different things. And
Mhm.
and and that those connections take time. And so a lot of times I'll ask a C a question and they'll kind of look at me like a deer in the headlights. Um, and then later that day, they'll send me a text or an email and they will have connected everything we've ever talked about.
Gotcha. It just took time for that
It just takes
connection to form.
time. And so if
Mhm.
you're a C, it's important to give yourself that time. A lot of C's really want to feel seen and understood, but there's a lot going on under the surface with C's. And a lot of times C's will feel invisible socially. They'll feel kind of looked over because C's aren't going to typically fight to be seen or to be heard. And so a lot of times they struggle to feel like people really get them or are willing to spend or invest all of the time and energy to really understand them. Um, O stands for optimism,
Mhm.
and O's are the idealists among us. And O's are motivated by fun. Uh,
Okay.
they're motivated by pleasant emotion.
Mhm.
O's are the only temperament that live in the present, and they want the present moment to be enjoyable and fun. O's are really good at seeing the potential and the possibility in things. They're really good at seeing what could be. They love wrapping their brains around something.
Uh-huh.
Uh, However, O's have a very low tolerance for negative emotion. They have a very low tolerance for conflict and hassle and resistance.
Mhm.
Why?
And drama and all those things?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because those things are not fun.
Mhm.
They're not enjoyable. O's are the most people oriented of any of the temperament types. O's bring a very light, buoyant, kind of enjoyable energy to situations, and they're really good at kind of rallying the troops and getting things going. But after that initial wave of kind of excitement and momentum fades, and all of the details and the minutia set in, O's have a really hard time maintaining movement. So it's not
Mhm.
at all uncommon for an O to have a whole stack of half-read books
Uh-huh.
or half completed projects. So O's are really great at this kind of initial phase of things and then tend to kind of have a hard time following through with things because they get bored. As long as an O is enjoying themselves, they will keep going and going and going.
Uh-huh.
Another mile, another game, another round.
Uh-huh.
I like to bike, and a lot of times I'll come home from a bike ride, and my wife will say, "Oh, you must have been feeling pretty good." She's like,
'Cause you're out a long time.
"Yeah," because or she'll call me and she's like, or when are you coming home? And I'll be like, "Well, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. I might go a little farther." Uh, that I'm an O. I'm a primary O, and O's are very much, as long as they're having good time, then they want to keep having fun. But if they're not, it's hard for them to keep doing it. The third, the R stands for resolution, and R's are the doers among us. R's are motivated by getting things done,
Uh-huh.
and they check things off. They make lists. It's really important to understand the emotional process for the R. R's that don't finish a project or something or check something off their list and think, oh, look at that. wall that I just painted. That's so awesome. No, what happens with the R brain is when something undone comes to their attention. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't matter if it's lost keys, a lost TV remote, an assignment that their kid has to turn in. When something undone gets on the radar screen, it bugs the R brain.
Mm-hmm.
It creates frustration, and that frustration is what the R is driven to resolve.
Gotcha.
And so they want to take care of whatever is bugging them, and then once it's done, then they're not bugged anymore, and
Mm-hmm.
they move on to the next thing that's bugging them.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. Uh-huh.
Ours are super intense. Ours are the only temperament that live in the future. Ours
Uh-huh.
are always thinking about what's coming. Um, and so ours are really good at blowing through obstacles. Ours are passionate. Their energy flares up and out really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because ours live in the future, they get over things really fast. They don't hang on to hurt feelings or hurt things. They're very goal directed and do really well when they know what to expect and they're in control of being able to get things done. A lot of times people can feel run over by ours.
Uh-huh.
They're focused on where they're going and whatever is between them and where they're going kind of becomes just this blur of obstacles to blow through. And sometimes you might be one of those obstacles. And so
Mm.
sometimes you can feel run over by an R. The last one is E. And E stands for exactness and excellence. And
Okay.
the E brain is motivated by improving things.
Gotcha.
The main emotional process that happens in the E brain is that E looks at anything to see how to make it better
All
for the
right.
next time. They
Uh-huh.
love they love doing research, and again, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's how to load the dishwasher or clean a toilet. Or my brother is an orthopedic hand surgeon. He's an E. It doesn't matter if
Uh-huh.
it's how to conduct a surgery. When the E brain is thinking, it's trying to figure out how to make something better. It's what the E brain
Gotcha.
does. So they
Very
love
process oriented too, probably
very,
is
yeah. They're
the
trying to
steampunk.
identify
Uh-huh.
the best way, and they want to find out the best process, and then they want to be able to push, rinse and repeat. They want to be able to have it just keep going in the best way that they've figured out. And doesn't matter what it is. I had a client who really got into making vanilla,
Uh-huh.
and she went deep on like vanilla beans from different countries and how that
Oh,
affected it.
wow.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's collecting art. I've never heard an E say that something was perfect.
Uh-huh.
There's always something that could make it better.
Uh-huh.
Uh, E's are the most internal processors of any of the types. When an E
Uh-huh.
gets disorganized emotionally, they tend to withdraw and go inside and kind of work through things internally and then come back out. E's are slow to trust other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you disagree with an E, their default is to think that you're wrong. Not that you're stupid, but the thought
Right.
process is, Dan, if you knew what I knew, if you
Because
had
I've thought this through. I've
I,
looked at every angle, right? That's what they're thinking. Uh-huh.
if you had the information that I have, you would also land on this obviously correct conclusion.
Right.
That's
Uh-huh.
kind of the conclusion. So they're slow to trust somebody else's opinion. There typically has to be some reason, education, experience, a referral. But once an E kind of categorizes you as one who knows, they have a lot of confidence and trust in the conclusions that you draw. Once you're one of their people, E's are super loyal, and they tend to have kind of a small network of people that they go really deep with.
Gotcha.
Anyway, that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of core and temperament.
That's so amazing. As you're talking, I could think of people in my life that fit each of those descriptions.
What do you think you are?
Oh, I see a little bit of myself in each one. I I definitely see a lot of C in me, a lot of O in me for sure, but also some R and E as
Yeah,
well in the way I do, the way I approach life.
yeah. I think that you're probably a primary C,
Okay.
um, and I would guess that you have kind of a smattering of the other ones. I would think that you might be a second. I think that you're also really good at processes
Mm-hmm.
and kind of creating. I wouldn't be surprised if you were a secondary E as well.
Yeah, probably.
You also get a lot done. So you have some artists in there as well. So,
Well, thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. If you haven't heard, my wife and I are putting on a very special Valentine's couples retreat. It's virtual. You get to spend 2 nights with us as we teach you over a webinar format. Don't worry, you're not on camera. And it's all about transforming your sexual encounters into a deeply soulful lovemaking experience. We're going live on Valentine's Day weekend. That's the Friday and the Saturday. But if you register, you can get the replays so you can set up your own getaway 90 days after. All the details are on our website at getyourmarriageon.com. Click events. You don't want to miss this because it'll make your Valentine's Day really special, and it'll last so much longer than just a box of chocolates and roses alone. We're also setting sail this October for a Get Your Marriage On cruise. Come vacation with us on a week-long Caribbean adventure where we'll take advantage of part of the sea days. You'll get to learn from me and my team as we do a deep dive on intimacy, specifically sexual intimacy in your relationship. And it's a perfect setting. It's romantic. Everything's done for you, taken care of for you. It's going to be a vacation. And you get to learn from me and my team on how to really enhance your sexual relationship to make it more soulful and more about love making. This is perfect for couples that already have a good sex life, but are looking forward to enjoying something new, something refreshing, and something really fun. You'll find all those details on our website as well. So hurry up and apply because we're limiting this just to a few couples. So if you're considering it, don't delay. You don't want to miss this opportunity. Now, this is a podcast dedicated to married couples that want to improve sex and intimacy in their marriage. And with this background, now that we understand 4 primary temperament types or profiles, can we go through them each again, starting with comfort, that's a C in C.O.R.E. And let's talk about what it would be like to have sex with someone, like if I was married to a C,
yes.
this is what would be important for them. So if I know that about them, how I might change my approach to improve my sexual relationship with them. And let's go through each one, R and E, if we can.
Yes. Super important. And because having sex with a C is going to be very different than having sex with an R.
Right.
And one of the things that's super powerful with temperament in general is that there's a very different phenomenon. There's a very different presence with a healthy C than there is with an unhealthy C, or a healthy R than an unhealthy R.
Gotcha. That
And
makes sense because
yeah,
there's a, even though a C, there's a spectrum. I guess
totally.
there's the superpower and the kryptonite with each
Exactly. Yes.
profile, right? So you got to know, am I in my healthy version of
Yes.
my temperament or my unhealthy version?
Yes.
What's
Yeah.
driving it? Okay.
When it comes to sexual intimacy, there's this dichotomy really shows up powerfully. So like for a C, one of the things that healthy C's do is to proactively create comfort in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
where unhealthy C's can become consumed with avoiding discomfort.
Gotcha.
And every single one of us has 2 primary emotional drives that are constants in our lives. The first one is a need to matter and to feel valued by the
Mm-hmm.
important people in our lives.
Right, right,
Every single one of us
right.
has
That's the sense to belong. That's,
well,
in my words, that's
yes.
attachment.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the second one. The
Okay.
second one is love and belonging. The first one is a sense of worth.
Okay. All right.
Every single one of us wants to feel valued and like we matter to the people that
Oh, I
we're
see.
supposed to. The
Gotcha.
second one is love and belonging,
Ah,
which is
okay.
attachment. And that is we all have an unalterable need to feel emotionally safe with the people that we're supposed to feel safe with.
Mm-hmm.
And the process to create safety is fairly simple. It is risking and having that risk responded to well.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And while it's simple, it's super hard to do, and it gets screwed up all the time, and sexually it is super important and also super difficult and challenging for people to do. And so if you take a C who really struggles, who tries to manage their C-ness by avoiding discomfort instead
Mm-hmm.
of creating comfort, then they disappear. And
Hmm.
so sexually, C's are really good at creating deep, meaningful connections. And so
Hmm.
as a C, it's important for you to, set the mood with candles or music or smells or clothes or temperature and those kinds of things that create the kind of comfort that will help you feel comfortable in that sexual encounter. And if you remember what I said about the C brain needing time,
Hmm.
shows up sexually as well, right? There's some predictable differences between the sexual response cycles of men and women, but there are also differences in the sexual response cycles for different temperament types. And C's need time. And so it's important if your partner is a C that you not just try to immediately go for orgasm or go for the clitoris or the androgynous hormones trying to get your partner to climax immediately. The C brain and the C body need time. And
Yeah.
so doing things to increase sexual tension and comfort, talking, communicating, being willing to risk. The ability that C's have to connect on a very deep level is special. It's special in any area of intimacy, emotional, social, sexual, spiritual. And so, sexually, the potential that you as a C have, or that your partner as a C has, to create very deep, meaningful connection is awesome. And most C's don't get there because of the requisite discomfort and risk and vulnerability required to create the kind of emotional connection that is necessary to have the sexual intimacy that the C's have the potential to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Yeah, I can identify with a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. And O's, again, what
The
motivates?
optimists. Yep.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so a couple of things. One, O's see the potential and
Uh-huh.
are game for almost anything. If something holds the potential for fun,
Uh-huh.
O's will move heaven and earth to try to accommodate that. These
Uh-huh.
are the kind of people that you can call last minute and say, "Hey, I just got great tickets to Hawaii. Do you want to come?"
I thought, yeah.
Or yeah, or I'm running to the mall in 15 minutes. Do you want to go?
Uh-huh.
And if the O thinks it will be fun, the O will do almost anything to accommodate that opportunity. And sex is no different.
Mhm.
So O's are typically open to exploration.
Uh-huh.
Now they also have a hard time with negative emotion, right? And
Right.
conflict. And sometimes vulnerability can feel really scary to the O. And one of the big differences between a healthy O and an unhealthy O is that unhealthy O's can really get stuck avoiding difficult conversations, working through hurt feelings, making room for the hurt feelings of their partner. And so what can end up happening with an O can kind of look like what can happen with two people who are avoidant, who have an avoidant attachment style, where you can just avoid things and avoid things and avoid things to where the connection and the intimacy just kind of piddles away into nothing.
Mhm.
And the relationship and the connection will just kind of slowly fade and die. That's a caution for O's, because in order to be close and intimate with anybody, you have to be willing to work through challenging things.
Yeah.
And that is particularly difficult for both C's and O's to do.
Mhm.
But as an O or with an O, you can have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and sexually is no different. You can bring in positions and music and jokes and entertainment kinds of things, but you have to make sure that you're maintaining safety,
Uh-huh.
emotional safety with your partner and for your partner. But in general, those are kind of the two things to keep in mind. One is that O's are more game than other people in general, and they also can really struggle with avoidance. I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with sex, but
Okay. Let's hear it.
our second daughter, Sydney, is an
Mhm.
O.
Uh-huh.
And
A chip off the old block, I'd say.
she's
Uh-huh.
got a good combination of both Ellen and I. She's an OR, and my
Uh-huh.
wife is a primary R, secondary O. But so during high school, O's don't like conflict, right?
Right.
And so when Sydney would want to do something or whatever, and I would say no, most of the time she would just kind of say, okay, she wouldn't keep pushing. because the conflict wasn't worth it to her.
Mhm.
And I would say, Sydney, fight with me. Give me an argument. I don't think this is a great idea right now, but I might be able to be convinced.
Uh-huh.
And most of the time, for her old brain, it wasn't worth the hassle or the argument or the discomfort of it. Not discomfort, that's more seen as, but the unpleasantness
Mhm.
of fighting with her dad.
Mhm.
And that's just an example of something you've got to be mindful of. If you're an O, you've got to force yourself to work through challenging things. And if you're married to an O, you have to be willing and encouraging to make, you can't make somebody, but to really try to drag out of your O what's going on under the surface, because they'll be like, that's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine.
Right.
It's not fine. That makes
That's
sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
What about the R then?
R.
Just an
Okay.
R.
So
Those
what?
that like resolution, the
Yeah.
doers.
Yes. So R's are goal oriented.
Uh-huh.
R's are the most externally processing of any of the temperament types. Almost
Okay.
everything that comes in the R brain comes out of the R mouth.
Okay.
You rarely have to guess about what an R is thinking or feeling,
Uh-huh.
which relationally is really awesome
Or
because,
not awesome if you don't like what
right,
you're saying.
and back to your right, your kryptonite and your superpower, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, because on the strength side of things, transparency and openness is one of the things that research has shown that leads to trust in a relationship. and
Mhm.
and when there are high levels of trust, that leads to feeling safe with that person.
Mhm.
And so that openness, you get that naturally with an R, and you also get what they're thinking. But so one of the challenges, if you are an R and your partner is not an R, a lot of times an R is very goal directed, and so they can start a sexual encounter and they can go right to the clitoris, or right to the breast, or the penis, because if the goal is orgasm, then the R brain wants to check that off the list just as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And so sex can become very task oriented
Mhm.
for the R brain. On the upside of having sex with an R, or if you are an R, it's uncomplicated. C's and E's tend to have a lot of other things that come into the bedroom with them.
Mhm.
Conversations that were had last week or last month or last year, what's going on at work. The C and E brain is typically doing a lot of internal processing. An R, almost all of that is external, and so R's get over things quickly. They get over hurt feelings quickly, and so sex tends to be much less complicated with an R and for an R. On the challenge side of things, you have to be mindful of especially the temperament of your partner and what
Uh-huh.
they might need, and the timing, the sexual rhythm and timing that each temperament need to be. And sometimes ours can be a little insensitive.
Mhm.
Um, Especially our men can, an our woman, not as much as an our man, but a lot of times an our man can feel pretty insensitive, and sex can feel like the objective. A lot of times, because again, once something comes on the radar screen of the R brain wants it resolved. And so
Right.
if the R has sex on the brain, then they want to do it now, no matter what else is going on, no matter what their partner has going on, they want to do it and do it now. And so if you put them off, they can get pretty grumpy, and it can
Uh-huh.
be it can be challenging for the R to manage that well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about E.
All right.
E
The
stands for,
exactors. Uh-huh.
yeah, yep. I call them the perfecters.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but E stands for exactness and excellence. You're exactly right.
Uh-huh.
Sex can become just like anything else, where it becomes this project of figuring
Uh-huh.
out the best way,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
So what's the formula to help you orgasm?
Uh-huh.
If I touch you here in this way for this long, and then I touch you here in this way for this long, and then we do this, and it should work every time. And so
Mhm.
it can become very formulaic for the E brain. One of the challenges when you're in a relationship with an E is it can feel like nothing is ever good enough.
Mhm.
And as these, this is a really important kind of thing to keep in mind, because there's a really fine line between something could be better and it's not good enough.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And when you have something that is as vulnerable and sensitive as sexual intimacy is, feeling like your performance is on trial can
Mhm.
be a real killer of excitement and desire and safety.
Yeah, yeah. It's not fun. Feel like you're being examined. Uh-huh.
No,
Right,
no, and feeling like you're a project doesn't feel very good either. And
right.
so you have to be careful of that. The other thing that E's have to keep in mind is as E's are the most internal processors, like
Mhm.
I said before, E's will go inside, figure things out, and then come out. And for the E, they don't have a real need to externally process. But in any relationship, you have three entities. You
Okay.
have each person and you have the relationship.
Right.
And even though the E might not need external processing, the relationship does in order to be healthy.
Gotcha.
And
So they have
so
to learn how to kinda open their mouth and, like, or share what's in their heart or whatever.
totally. Yeah. That you have to remember that if you want your partner to be a part of things, you've got to let them in.
Mhm.
And that doesn't happen naturally to the E. If your partner is an E and you're having sex with an E, then understanding the formulaic kind of nature is
Mhm.
important to understand. And knowing how I think one of the biggest blessings and benefits of understanding temperament is that it changes the way that we interpret what we get from our partners. Because we have a very strong tendency as human beings to think that other people do things for more or less the same reasons that we do.
Right, but that's a faulty assumption.
It's a cognitive distortion.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And so when you understand why an R does what they do, it changes the way that you interact with them. We're talking about sex, but in parenting, that's huge. Parenting an E child is very different. Well, parenting an E child well is
Mhm.
very different than parenting a C child well.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so those are kind of some of the things to keep in mind sexually for each of the temperaments. If that did that make sense?
Yeah, it makes that's so good. We're as we wrap up our conversation today, I guess the takeaways I'm getting is understand my temperament better and really understand my spouse's temperament better. And then don't assume my primary motivations are my spouse's primary motivations and kind of be a student of their temperament, what
Yeah,
motivates them to, and then like work together on that. And also pay attention to my healthy side and my unhealthy side,
yeah,
whatever my temperament is,
yep,
so I can bring my best or work on what brings my best to that
totally.
relationship.
Yeah,
Let other people in. That's so good. Now you have a book about all this.
I
Can you
do.
tell people about it real quick and how they can learn about you as
Yeah,
we
I
conclude
don't
today?
think this. So this is the book, Unlock Your
Uh-huh.
Core Potential.
So for the of you listening, he's holding up his book right now.
Oh yeah,
It's called
yeah.
Unlock Your Core. Uh-huh.
Unlock Your Core Potential: What You Can and Can't Change About Your Personality. It's available on Amazon. You can go to drdenimslade.com. It's available there. And temperament doesn't change. And if you don't most of us waste so much time and energy and money trying to change things, feeling bad,
Mhm.
devaluing the things that make us special, and
Uh-huh.
feeling bad about those things, hitting our heads against walls that never move. And it is imperative to learn how to work with your strengths, to amplify and magnify the strengths that come with each temperament, and then be able to work with and around the challenges that are never going to go anywhere. The same
Mhm.
things that you struggle with. I've been married for 31 years.
Uh-huh.
The same things that I love about my our wife,
Uh-huh.
the, the same things that I loved when I was 13 are the
Uh-huh.
same things that I love now. And the same things that frustrated me then are the
Uh-huh.
same things that frustrate me now.
Right.
About me that drew her to me, she still loves and adores. And the things that are maddening about being married to me are still maddening. So you got to learn how to work with that. And you can learn how to do that in the book. Lots of different resources there. We do have a little handout on sexual intimacy and temperament that we can make available to your review.
Great. I'd love to include it in the show notes.
Okay.
That'd be great. A
Okay.
handout. They'll sum all this up and how it applies in sex. That's great.
Good. Okay.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your research, your experience. I think
You
this is going
bet.
to be very beneficial.
Well, good. It's good to visit with you, Dan. Thanks.
So, what do you think? What do you think your core temperament type is? What's your spouse's core temperament type? How can you use this knowledge to know your spouse better, to be a better lover? If you'd like help with any of this material, implementing it in your marriage, check out our Get Your Marriage On program. It is great for couples that want to go deeper in their relationship. Meanwhile, thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with all of your married friends. I promise they will thank you for life. Download the Intimately Us app if you haven't yet, and share that with your friends too. And go get your marriage on. Talk to you next week.